Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudite Nashtaprayeshu Vadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 9, Prahlad pacifies Lord Nrsimhadeva with prayers. Text number 28 onwards. So Prahlad Maharaj is further speaking. Evam janan nipatitam prabhavahi kupe kama bhi kama manuyah prapatan prasangah kritvatma sat surashinam bhagvan grihitah. So aham katham no visrijetav bhritya sevam. My dear Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, because of my association with material desires, one after another, I was gradually falling into a blind well full of snakes, following the general populace. But your servant Narad Muni kindly accepted me as his disciple and instructed me how to achieve this transcendental position. Therefore, my first duty is to serve him. How could I leave his service? As will be seen in the later verses, even though Prahlad Maharaj was directly offered all the benedictions he might have desired, he refused to accept such offerings from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. On the contrary, he asked the Lord to engage him in the service of his servant, Narad Muni. This is a symptom of a pure devotee. One should serve the spiritual master first. It's not that one should bypass the spiritual master and desire to serve the Supreme Lord. This is not the principle for a Vaishnava. Narottam Das Thakur says, Tandera Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanevas. One should not be anxious to offer direct service to the Lord. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advised that one become a servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord. Gopi Bhartu Padkamale or Das Das and Das. This is the process for approaching the Supreme Lord. The first service should be rendered to the spiritual master so that by his mercy one can approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead to render service. While teaching Rupa Goswami, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Lata Beach. One can achieve the seed of devotional service by the mercy of the Guru, the spiritual master, and then by the mercy of Krishna. This is the secret of success. First, one should try to please the spiritual master, and then one should attempt to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also says, Yasya Prasada Bhagavad Prasado. One should not attempt to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead by concoction. One must first be prepared to serve the spiritual master, and when one is qualified, he is automatically offered the platform of direct service to the Lord. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj proposed that he engage in the service of Narad Muni. He never proposed that he engage directly in the service of the Lord. This is the right conclusion. Therefore, he said, So aham katham no visrije tava bhritya sevam. How can I give up the service of my spiritual master who has favored me in such a way that I am now able to see you face to face? Prahlad Maharaj prayed to the Lord that he might continue to engage in the service of his spiritual master, Narad Muni. So, previously also he asked for let me always have association in the service of Narad Muni because he saved me. He accepted me as his disciple and instructed me how to achieve this transcendental position. So this is, as Prabhupada said, this is a real mode of approaching the Lord. We don't approach the Lord directly. We approach the Lord through spiritual master. So through Srila Prabhupada's books, his instructions, Of course, without this, we won't be able to approach the Lord because we won't even know what to do, how to do the service. So through Prabhupada's books, everything is clear how to approach the Lord, how to do the service, how to chant, how to do everything. Everything is there in his books and instructions. And of course, at any time, we should not think that we have become bigger than the spiritual master. Everything happens by the mercy of spiritual master. Mat prana rakshanantam anant pitur vadhascha manye swabhritya rishi vakyam ritam vidhatum khadgam pragriya yadavocha sadviditsur Swam Ishvaro Madparo Avatukam Harami. My Lord, O unlimited reservoir of transcendental qualities, you have killed my father, Hiranyakashipu, and saved me from his sword. He had said very angrily, if there is any supreme controller other than me, let him save you. I shall now sever your head from your body. Therefore, I think that both in saving me and in killing him, you have acted just to prove true the words of your devotee. There is no other cause. To prove true the words of your devotee. Actually, what had happened, of course, Prabhupada explains it in the purport. So let's read the purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is undoubtedly equal to everyone. He has no friend and no enemy. But as one desires benefit from the Lord is very pleased to award them. The lower and higher positions of different living entities are due to their desires. For the Lord, being equal to all, fulfills everyone's desires. The killing of Hiranyakashipu and saving of Prahlad Maharaj also strictly followed this law of the Supreme Controller's activities. When Prahlada's mother, Hiranyakashipu's wife, Kayadhu, was under the protection of Narad Muni, she prayed for the protection of her son from the enemy. Because as we remember, when Hiranyakashipu went for his austerities, Indra and other demigods came to his palace and they took Kayadhu away. And when Narad Muni met them, and they said, well, she is pregnant and a demon will be born and we want to make sure he dies. And Narad Muni said, he is such a Mahabhagavad, you won't be able to kill him. And then Narad Muni brought Kayadhu to his ashram. And when Kayadhu came, as usual, mother, and she was pregnant, she was very afraid, scared of everybody about her womb. Then she prayed for the protection of her womb, of her son from the enemy. So she had in her mind that Indra is the enemy God. He wanted to kill him. And Narad Muni, Prabhupada said, Narad Muni gave assurance that Prahlad Maharaj would always be saved from the enemy's hands. So Narad Muni gave assurance that Prahlad Maharaj would always be saved from the enemy's hands. No enemy would be able to kill him. But now when Hiranyakashipu took up the sword to kill Prahlad Maharaj, so Hiranyakashipu became enemy of Prahlad Maharaj. And Narad Muni's word cannot go wrong. Thus, when Hiranyakashipu was going to kill Prahlad Maharaj, the Lord saved Prahlad to fulfill his promise in Bhagavad Gita, Kaunteya prati janihi namem pranashati, and to prove true the words of Narad Muni. So many things go on behind every pastime of the Lord. The Lord can fulfill many purposes through one action. Thus, the killing of Hiranyakashipu and the saving of Prahlad were enacted simultaneously to prove the truthfulness of the Lord's devotee and the fidelity of the Lord himself to his own purpose. Means he is true to his words. The Lord acts only to satisfy the desires of his devotees. Otherwise, he has nothing to do. As confirmed in Vedic language, natasya karyam karanam na vidyate. Karanam cha vidyate. The Lord has nothing to do personally, for everything is done through his different potencies. The Lord has multifarious energies through which everything is done. Thus, when he personally does something, it is to satisfy his devotee. The Lord is known as Bhakta Vatsal because he very much favors his devoted servant. So this is also to answer, if we remember, the original question, how it all started was Parikshit Maharaj as Shukdev Goswami, when he heard the story of how Shishupal was killed by Krishna in the Rajasuya sacrifice of Maharaj Yudhishthir. And Parikshit Maharaj asked, the Lord is neutral, equal to everyone. How come he doesn't look like? He looks like biased here. So then Shukdev Goswami said, well, a similar question was asked by Yudhishthir Maharaj to Narad Muni. And this whole story is going on, conversation between Narad Muni and Yudhishthir Maharaj. And here finally it comes down to the Lord is known as Bhakta Vatsal, although he's equal to everybody. But his devotees, he wants to protect them, he wants to protect their words. Narad Muni said, your son will always be saved from your enemy's hands. And he also protected the benedictions that Brahmaji gave to Hiranyakashipu and still killed Hiranyakashipu. That's his love for his devotees. Ekastvam eva jagadetam amushya yatvam adyantyo prithagvasyasi madhyatascha srishtva gunavyatikaram nijag maya yedam nanev terva sittastad anupravishtaha. My dear Lord, you alone manifest yourself as entire cosmic manifestation, for you existed before the creation. You exist after the annihilation, and you are the maintainer between the beginning and the end. All this is done by your external energy through actions and reactions of the three modes of material nature. Therefore, whatever exists externally and internally is you alone. So now, Prahlad Maharaj, now he's starting to glorify the Lord, or to tell everybody of the position of the Lord. So again, very, very technical shlokas, but wonderful prayers by a 5-year-old boy to the Lord. As stated in Brahm Samhita, Eko api ras asau rachayetum jagadanda kotim. I worship the personality of Godhead Govinda, who by one of his plenary portions enters the existence of every universe and every atomic particle, and thus unlimitedly manifests his infinite energy all over the material creation. To create this cosmic manifestation, Govinda, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, expands his external energy and thus enters everything in the universe, including the atomic particles. In this way, he exists in the entire cosmic manifestation. Therefore, the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in maintaining his devotees are transcendental, not material. He exists in everything as a cause and effect, yet he is separate, existing beyond this cosmic manifestation. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. So he is everything. Everything comes from him. He is in everything. From him comes all the universes, and then he enters each and every universe and each and every atomic particle of each and every universe. Mind-boggling. And he also enters sits with the living entity in each and every species, every body, everywhere he's there. And this is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Maya tadam idam sarvam jagat avyakta murtina. The entire cosmic manifestation is but an expansion of the Lord's energy. Everything rests in him, yet he exists separately beyond creation, maintenance, and annihilation. The varieties of creation are performed by his external energy. Because the energy and energetic are one, everything is one. Sarvam khala idam brahma. So everything is one doesn't mean that we all are Krishna. Therefore, without Krishna, the Parabrahman, nothing can exist. The difference between the material and spiritual worlds is that his external energy is manifested in the material world, whereas his spiritual energy exists in the spiritual world. Both energies, however, belong to the Supreme Lord, and therefore, in a higher sense, there is no exhibition of material energy because everything is spiritual energy. The energy in which the Lord's all-pervasiveness is not realized is called material. Otherwise, everything is spiritual. Therefore, Prahlad says, Ekastvam eva jagad etam. You are everything. Of course, Mayavadis, when they read this, they translate as you are everything means everything is you. So here Prabhupada explains, you are everything because everything comes from you. Material energy, spiritual energy, everything comes from you, and you are in every atom. So nothing can exist without you. Everything rests upon you. Everything is functioning because of you. But Vaishnava philosophy doesn't say you are every atom or you are every living being. No. The huge difference between us and Krishna. We cannot exist without his mercy. Even the soul is part and parcel of Krishna. The body is also coming from his energy. The whole universe is his energy. And here Prabhupada says, in a higher sense, there is no exhibition of material energy because everything is spiritual energy. Everything is spiritual because it's coming from Krishna. But the problem is how we use it. As spirit soul, we are part and parcel of Krishna, but we have adopted this material consciousness when we are in the material world. And so when we use his energies in our service, for our pleasure, then it becomes material. When we use the same energy in his service, everything regains its original position as spiritual. Everything means everything. Our body, our senses, our intelligence, and everything that's in our possession. So this is what Achintya Bheda Bhed Tattva, that's what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu established. Tvam va idam sad asad isha bhavastato anyo maya yadatma par buddhiriyam hi partha yad yasya janma nidhanam sthiti tirikshanam cha tad vedad eva vasukala vadishta tarvoh. My dear Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, the entire cosmic creation is caused by you. And the cosmic manifestation is an effect of your energy. Although the entire cosmos is but you alone, you keep yourself aloof from it. The conception of mine and yours is certainly a type of illusion, Maya, because everything is an emanation from you and is therefore not different from you. Indeed, the cosmic manifestation is non-different from you, and the annihilation is also caused by This relationship between your lordship and the cosmos is illustrated by the example of the seed and the tree, or the subtle cause and growth manifestation. So the Maya is conception of mine and yours, when actually everything is Lord's. Entire cosmos is but you alone. You keep yourself aloof from it. You alone means everything is your energy. It's not our energy. Everything is his energy. Everything comes from him. And Prahlad Maharaj gives the example of seed and the tree. So from the seed comes the tree, but the seed and the tree are different and same at the same time. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, Bijam mama sarva bhutanam vidhi partha sanatanam. O son of Pritha, know that I am the original seed of all existence. In the Vedic literature, it is said, Isha vasam idam sarvam, yato imani bhutani. All this Vedic information indicates that there is only one God and that there is nothing else but him. The Mayavadi philosophers explain this in their own way, but the Supreme Personality of Godhead asserts that the truth that he is everything, yet is separate from everything. This is the philosophy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which is called Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva. Everything is one, the Supreme Lord, yet everything is separate from the Lord. This is the understanding of oneness and difference. So everything is one because everything comes from the Lord, but everything is separate at the same time. Means this phone that we are speaking through and having classes, yes, it is the energy of the Lord, but this is not the Supreme Lord. Simple as we don't worship the phone or the laptop. Of course, some people do because this is the main source of income, but that's not why we worship the Lord. The example given in this regard, Vasu Kalavad Asti Tarva, is very easy to understand. Hare Krishna. Rajiv Prabhu, you have to mute yourself. Everything exists in time, yet there are different phases of the time factor, present, past, and future. Present, past, and future are one. How? Every day we can experience a time factor as morning, noon, and evening. And although morning is different from noon, which is different from evening, all of them taken together are one. The time factor is the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But the Lord is separate from the time factor. Everything is created, maintained, and annihilated by the time. But the Supreme Lord, the Personality of Godhead, has no beginning and no end. He is Nitya Shashvata, eternal, permanent. Everything passes through time's phases of present, past, and future. Yet the Lord is always the same. Thus, there is undoubtedly a difference between the Lord and the cosmic manifestation, but actually they are not different. Accepting them to be different is called avidya or ignorance. So they are different and they are same at the same time. So Prabhupada explains about the time factor. So time we have past, present, and future. Or he gave example of morning, noon, and evening. So they are different, but at the same time they are one as time or as a day. But Krishna is separate from morning, noon, and evening. It's difficult to understand, but at the same time, we have to understand everything comes from Krishna, but Krishna is not everything. That's all. True oneness, however, is not equivalent to the conception of the Mayavadis. The true understanding is that the differences are manifested by the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The seed is manifested as a tree which displays varieties in its trunk, branches, leaves, flowers, and fruits. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has therefore sung Keshav Tuya Jagata Vichitra. My dear Lord, your creation is full of varieties. The varieties are one and at the same time different. This is the philosophy of Achintya Bheda Bhed Tattva. Conclusion given in Brahma Samhita is this: Ishvara Paramaha Krishna. Krishna, known as Govinda, is the supreme controller. He has an eternal, blissful, spiritual body. His origin of all, he has no other origin. For he is a prime cause of all causes. Because the Lord is a supreme cause, everything is one with him. But when we consider varieties, we find that one thing is different from another. So, that's why Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that your creation is vichitra, full of varieties, or is very astonishing. We may conclude, therefore, that there is no difference between one thing and another. Yet in varieties, there are differences. So yes, there is no difference in the sense everything is energy of the Lord. But he himself has made 8,400,000 species, and in every species there's so many varieties. But ultimately we see everything is made of earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego. That's it. But the varieties are there. In this regard, Madhvacharya gives an example concerning a tree and a tree in fire. Both trees are the same, but they look different because of the time factor. The time factor is under the control of the Supreme Lord, and therefore the Supreme Lord is different from time. An advanced devotee consequently does not distinguish between happiness and distress. So this is what Tatyanukampam Susamekshavan. Advanced devotee, he says different happiness and distress, all coming as a mercy of the Lord. Whatever comes is a mercy of the Lord. When a devotee is in a condition of so-called distress, he considers it as a gift or blessing from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When a devotee is always thus situated in Krishna consciousness, in any condition of life, he is described as Mukti Pate Sadaya Bhag, a perfect candidate for returning home back to Godhead. The word Daya Bhag means inheritance. A son inherits the property of his father. Similarly, when the devotee is fully Krishna conscious, undisturbed by dualities, he is sure that he will return home back to Godhead, just as one inherits his father's property. So, but that faith and how he inherits the father's property of Daibhag, when he, even though distresses are there, he still carries on the service with his body, mind, and words. Then he's a perfect candidate.
Tagre, beta Chanda, Naira ka nashta.
Chitna Mataji, mute yourself.
Sorry.
Nyasyedam atmani jagat vilambyam mudhye sheshetmana nij sukhan bhavo niri yogena milita drigatmani pita nindras turye sthito natu tamo na gunascha yungshe. O my Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, after the annihilation, the creative energy is kept in you, who appear to sleep with half-closed eyes. Actually, however, you do not sleep like an ordinary human being, for you are always in a transcendental stage, beyond the creation of material world, and you always feel transcendental bliss. As Karanadaksha Vishnu, you thus remain in your transcendental status, not touching material objects. Although you appear to sleep, this sleeping is distinct from sleeping in ignorance. When we sleep in ignorance, complete ignorance, means we even forget who we are, where we are. But the Lord is not like that. Lord goes into Yoga Nidra actually. As explained very clearly in Brahma Samhita, I worship the primeval Lord, Govinda, who lies down in the causal ocean in his plenary portion as Mahavishnu, with all the universes generating from the pores of air on his transcendental body, and who accepts the mystic slumber of eternity. Mystic slumber of eternity. The Adi Purusha, the original supreme personality of Godhead, Krishna, Govinda, expands himself as Mahavishnu. After the annihilation of this cosmic manifestation, he keeps himself in transcendental bliss. The word Yoga Nidram is used in reference to the supreme personality of Godhead. One should understand that this Nidra or sleep is not like our Nidra in the mode of ignorance. The Lord is always situated in transcendence. He is Satchidananda, eternally in bliss, and thus is not disturbed by sleep like ordinary human beings. It should be understood that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is in transcendental bliss in all stages. Srila Madhvacharya concisely states that the Lord is Turiya Sita, always situated in transcendence. In transcendence, there is no such thing as Jagran, Nidra, Sushupti, wakefulness, sleep, and deep sleep. So these conditions are there in the material world. The Lord is always beyond the material modes of nature. So his sleeping or his taking rest is Yoga Nidra. Means this is a transcendental position, nothing to do with material. The practice of yoga is similar to the Yoga Nidra of Mahavishnu. Yogis are advised to keep their eyes half closed, but this state is not at all one of sleep. Although imitation yogis, especially in the modern age, manifest their so-called yoga by sleeping. So modern day and age, modern yogis, they go to sleep. But the actual closing of eyes is half closing of eyes. With the half closed, you look at the tip of the nose. That's what Krishna says in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita for the yogis to do. And this is how Mahavishnu is also like that. In the Shastra, yoga is described as Dhyanavastita, a state of full meditation. But this is meditation upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So even Mahavishnu is meditating on Krishna. Dhyanavastita tadagatena manasa. The mind should always be situated at the lotus feet of the Lord. Yoga practice does not mean sleeping. The mind should always be actively fixed at the lotus feet of the Lord. Then one's practice of yoga will be successful. Or that is a proper practice. Otherwise, we are just imitating. And especially these days when we do yoga or this meditation practice, it's a nice cushioned place, nice carpet there so we can sit properly. And then they keep it dark and the AC is on. So very comfortably, people go off to sleep in that kind of condition. Of course, when we do any meditation and try to concentrate, keeping the mind away from every disturbing thought. And in that room, when they play very soothing music, soft, whatever music they want to play, and we are not listening to any outside noise, trying to keep away all the distractions. Obviously, first thing that is going to happen is sleep. That is so obvious. And people think, oh, I was in trance, samadhi, and but you were sleeping, nothing else. Yoga asanas and then samadhi or meditate, dhyan It's not that easy. Not at all easy. Takes years and years and years of practice. Even a little imitation of this can help one. That's how powerful it is. A little imitation. तस्य ते वपुरिदं निज काल शक्त्या संचोदित प्रकृति धर्मण आत्मगूढ़म् अंभस्य अनंत शयनाद विरमत्त समाधे नाभिरभूत स्वकणिकावट वन महाब्जम. This cosmic manifestation, the material world, is also your body. This total lump of matter is agitated by your potent energy known as Kala Shakti. And thus the three modes of material nature are manifested. You awaken from the bed of Shesha Ananta, and from your navel a small transcendental seed is generated. It is from this seed that the lotus flower of the gigantic universe is manifested. Exactly as a banyan tree grows from a small seed. This all we studied in the third canto of where the creation, how it happens, it was described. The three different forms of Mahavishnu, named Karanadaksha Vishnu, Garbhadaksha Vishnu, and Kshiradaksha Vishnu, who are the origin of creation and maintenance, are gradually being described here. From Mahavishnu, Garbhadaksha Vishnu is generated, and from Garbhadaksha Vishnu, Kshiradaksha Vishnu gradually expands. Thus, Mahavishnu is the original cause of Garbhadaksha Vishnu, and from Garbhadaksha Vishnu comes the lotus flower from which Lord Brahma is manifested. Thus, the original cause of everything is Vishnu, and consequently, the cosmic manifestation is not different from Vishnu. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, wherein Krishna says, Aham sarvasya prabhava. Everything comes from me. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Because Krishna is the origin, and from him, first expansion is Balramji, then comes Sankarshan, Anirudh, Pradyumna, Vasudeva, and from Sankarshan comes Narayan, from Narayan comes second Chaturvyu, from second Chaturvyu of Sankarshan, Anirudh, Pradyumna, Vasudeva comes Mahavishnu. When we say comes, it doesn't mean they were not there at any time. It's just for us to understand how they appear. Garbhodaksha Vishnu is an expansion of Karanadaksha Vishnu or Mahavishnu, who is an expansion of Sankarshan. In this way, Krishna is ultimately the cause of all causes. The conclusion is that both the material world and spiritual world are considered to be the body of the Supreme Lord. We can understand that the material body is caused by the spiritual body and therefore is an expansion of the spiritual body. Thus, when one takes up spiritual activities, one's entire material body is spiritualized. So material body is caused by the spiritual body and is therefore an expansion of the spiritual body. So this we have explained that the spirit soul, now the spirit soul is, okay, it's explained, it's 1/10,000th part of the tip of the hair, but it has a shape also. The shape is whatever is there in the spiritual world, but it has become very small, falling in the material world. And it has consciousness. Now, the original consciousness, whatever it was in the spiritual world, gets covered over in the material world. So now, when our consciousness was in the last life was of a human being, we developed the consciousness of a male body. So my soul, or I, actually the soul is what I am, gets this male body. Because the consciousness was of a male body or an Indian male body. And then based on my karma and the desires from the previous life. I was given birth, Indian male body in an Indian family in that particular household. Now my original spiritual body, I don't know what it is, but this is what Prabhupada says. Then when one takes up spiritual activities, then one's entire material body is spiritualized, or the spiritual body starts expanding, starts becoming bigger and bigger inside. It will still look like this material body because this is my prarabdha karma. So one's entire material body, then the entire material body starts becoming spiritualized. So means the organs also starts becoming spiritualized. Consciousness starts becoming spiritualized. Or we are developing we should not say developing, removing the covering of material consciousness. So the original spiritual consciousness is coming out or expanding. So it's not a new spiritual consciousness, it's original, whatever was there. Similarly, in this material world, when the Krishna consciousness movement expands, the entire material world becomes spiritualized. So the entire material world becomes spiritualized if the movement expands all over the world. So it's not that new material world will be formed. No, this material world, environment, the atmosphere, everything becomes spiritualized. And that's how it was in Satyuga, in most of the places, because this Hiranyakashipu and Prahlad Maharaj, that incident happened in Satyuga. But mostly it is spiritualized, and slowly it gets, there's a decline. As long as we do not realize this, we live in the material world. But when we are fully Krishna consciousness, we live not in the material world, but in the spiritual world. Although we might be physically in the material world, but because of our consciousness, we are in the spiritual world. It is very esoteric topic and difficult to understand. But this is what happens. This is what happens with the devotees. There's tons and tons of examples. Prabhupada also showed some time. Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj. But then they would hide it because they didn't want cheap publicity. They were here for to preach to the conditioned souls. So, but because we are conditioned souls, we might start imitating them instead of following them. And then if we imitate, then it's very bad for our spiritual growth. So whatever progress we make, of course, Krishna is sitting in the heart. He knows everything. He knows everything. We cannot fool him. We cannot cheat him. So he knows what kind of progress, what kind of practices we are doing, and so what kind of progress we are making, and so what kind of spiritual body is developing inside. How much it has developed. And that is why for the spiritually advanced people, or for the incarnations of the Lord, or for their for their associates also, it is shown a halo around the head. There is a halo shown. in the pictures or paintings, because that halo represents the advancement of that living entity spiritually. But the Lord, when of course Lord doesn't need to make it, He's always the Lord, but there's a halo shown around him to signify that. And in other paths, so halo or the spiritual progress is also represented by how big is a spiritual cord. There are cords. There are how the soul is attached to the spiritual world. So how thick that cord is. For people who are not at all spiritually inclined, their cord is very, very thin. It may be like, it could be 1 millimeter, 2 millimeter, maybe 1 centimeter thick. And those who are really spiritually inclined, their cord could be maybe 1 foot in diameter. Because through that cord, because they are so advanced, the spiritual energy is pouring inside them. So it's a definitely a scientific process, and more we take up these practices or activities, more sincerely we take them up, more progress we make. It's simple as that. So this is all what we have to do. So that when we are fully spiritually advanced, then we are no longer eligible to live here in the material world. And we are eligible to go back to the spiritual world, to transfer back to the spiritual world. So that's all we have to carry on, continue with our spiritual practices properly. So I know these are very, very technical topics, but very nice to understand so that our philosophy is clear. So anyway, we'll stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments? Okay, so we'll stop here. You all have a safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Hare